All right, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole for May 22nd, 2025, and we'll call on the clerk to call roll.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
Councilmember Stallings.
Present.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Sumner.
Here.
Councilmember Make.
Here.
Councilmember Bogard.
Present.
Councilmember Velez.
Here.
Councilmember Bell. Councilmember Dowd.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, Councilman Bell, his son is graduating tonight from high school, so I think he's excused, absolutely. Member Craig, her daughter graduates tomorrow. I'm not okay with that. I know you're not okay with that, but so I just want to say congratulations to all of our graduates, all of our local graduates. So if you're able, please stand for the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 4, approval of the minutes from May 8th, 2025 special called meeting. Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second, all right. Any discussion about that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Item 5, administrative matters. We're going to call on Mr. Lee Conrad. He's going to talk about Tokio Marine insurance update.
Yes, thank you all for your time. I have prepared remarks to keep me brief. So I know you all have a full agenda tonight. The first thing I want to say is thank you all to the city, to the employees for the hard work through all these storms we've had. I know it's been tiring. I know Saturday, me and my son spent about 6 hours chopping wood, and it was a good lesson for them and a bad lesson for my back. So, I've been asked to provide an update on the quoting process for the City of Hopkinsville's property and casualty insurance for the 25-26 policy year. If you all recall, you renewed July 1st. As some of you know, Tokio Marine, the current carrier for many Kentucky cities, and yours, has made the decision to exit the small and mid-sized municipal market in our state. This is largely due to significant losses, both from catastrophic property claims, which we all know too well here, as well as what we're now hearing called the nuclear verdicts tied to law enforcement liability and all other lines of liability insurance. Simply put, they and other carriers have been hemorrhaging money on their municipal book of business and have chosen to withdraw. Once this decision was announced and you all received your notice from them, our team worked closely with the city staff and others to develop a strategy to find the best possible replacement. We approached multiple carriers. Candidly, many declined to quote. Some cited the overall volatility in Kentucky's municipal insurance marketplace, while others found, and this is something that's somewhat new, we've heard this the last couple of bid processes, but this is something that I think we need to look at long term. Several cited the city's unique structure where we've got multiple entities that are kind of attached at the hip, but are separate legal entities and have their own insurance. Like the ECC, planning and zoning, flood utility, and there's some others mixed in there. That's not a criticism of anything, but the insurance world gets concerned about what they're called stacking of limits. So if we have the same insurance company that insures ECC and the city and planning and zoning and the flood utility, and everybody gets drug into some kind of a lawsuit, they worry that they've extended too many limits out there. From strictly a liability standpoint, we think it's a good idea to have them all on one policy so that if there is a lawsuit, you don't have 4 different insurance companies pointing the fingers at each other saying, no, you pay, no, you pay, no, you pay. So I still think the way we approach it, and you all have approached it historically where everybody is with one carrier on separate policies, is the right way to look at it. But if we run out of options in the future, we might need to reconsider that. However, I am pleased to report that we do have very strong interest from the Kentucky League of Cities. KLC has been eager to work with the city of Hopkinsville for quite some time, and they're currently preparing a comprehensive quote. Their proposal is expected to match the city's current coverage limits across all lines. For liability insurance, that's $10 million. I anticipate having that quote in hand by the end of next week at the latest. Frankly, they've told me next Tuesday, but we all know everybody's busy. I think one important point to make very clear to the city is this. KLC operates as a self-insurance pool. And what that means is that participating cities, you all share the risk with them. It's not a quote unquote guaranteed cost. We pay this premium, we have this coverage, and we will never pay more. In the unlikely event that claims were to ever exceed available funds, and that means for the whole pool, not just for you all, but for the whole pool, there is a theoretical possibility of an assessment to cover the shortfall. In layman's terms, if we have a year where claims are out of control for the pool, there is a chance that they could come back to everybody and split it up pro rata and say, hey, everybody, you guys owe this amount each. It's not an unfounded thing in the world of public entity pool insurance. Kisbet, the Kentucky School Board Insurance Trust, 13 years ago went completely under, and school boards around the state had to pay very large sums of money to pay for those claims that were underfunded. However, it's my understanding that KLC has not had an assessment in many years. As we all know, they have absorbed some huge losses in the last few years, and they remain financially strong and stable, which gives me confidence in the program. If we do move forward with KLC, I do expect some positive changes in your coverage. We will likely see lower deductibles, which I know will be a good feeling on the budget, on both property and liability coverage. And I do not anticipate a significant increase in premiums, and who knows, we may be pleasantly surprised a week from now. We're aiming to have this process wrapped up in the next 2 weeks, and we'll go from there. But again, I don't mean to sound alarming with the self-insurance pool thing, but I think it's important in my role as your all's agent to kind of tell you the good, the bad, and the potential ugly, even if it is unlikely. So we've got a great relationship with KLC. We have a couple of cities with them and other city-related type entities. Had wonderful experience. They're good people. You all know them better than I do. So any questions, concerns, comments?
Questions for Lee?
Yeah, it may be premature, I don't know, but do you know when the last assessment was made by KLC?
It's been 15 years or more. 15 years or more. There has not been an assessment by a major self-insurance pool in Kentucky since Kisbet went under. And candidly, Kisbet's a school board insurance trust. Candidly, I'll say this, what gives me some comfort with KLC, and when you get concerned about self-insurance pools, is when they're way cheaper than what the rest of the marketplace says. And KLC, if you look at our bid history with them, they've not been the least expensive. And so that tells me they're collecting enough premium to cover their claims and have a good reserve. And they've needed it with what happened in Mayfield, and now with what's happened in Somerset. And then believe it or not, Owensboro was probably the largest loss they've faced with the hailstorm recently. I don't want to cite the number that I've been told, but it's astronomical. But their way their reinsurance is structured, it's not going to hit any of their members. So it's a good program where we feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. Well, we don't expect you to predict the weather, but it's also hard for you to come up with some kind of an idea of what risk that would be for us.
Yeah, there's two types of risk with a self-insurance pool and assessments. And again, I apologize if I'm getting in the weeds a little bit. There's the catastrophic risk where there's not enough reinsurance behind the pool. Let's just use a make-believe example. Let's say that they have $100 million of reinsurance on property, and a line of storms comes across the state. That one line of storms is considered one occurrence, even if it hits multiple cities. And that limit of insurance is $100 million per occurrence. If they were to have a $150 million loss that day, the pool would have to pick up that $50 million that is not covered. Okay? That is the most worst case catastrophic scenario. Where self-insurance pools usually get in trouble is the funding of future liability claims. Mr. Willen can attest to this. I think he used to do some insurance defense. You charge a premium this year for liability. You don't pay until months, years, tens and dozens of years down the road. So you can't, it's very difficult to predict what a liability claim, somebody slips and falls today, but decides not to sue for a year or 2 years or some other period of time. Or a better example in terms of a statute of limitations would be a wrongful termination claim. In Kentucky, I think you get 5 years for that. So you're collecting premium today, trying to bet on what you're going to owe in the future. Whereas with weather, you can build a tower and say, it's as hard as it sounds, it's almost easier to predict. Because you know how much property you have insured today. You know what historically storms do. Whereas with liability, if you had said 5 years ago you would have $8 million sexual abuse claims at school systems, nobody would have believed you. And now we see what used to be a $700,000 claim is a $7 million claim, and with liability. So that's the tough part to know, but they have a very good track record in predicting.
Yeah, that's good enough. I
Yeah.
think for tonight, the deliberation will go on with the council.
Sure.
So the bottom line is I hope that at some point we get a chance to take a long look at what our plan might be if we have to come up with
Sure.
something like that.
Well, and I'll close with this. When I got into this business 14 years ago, there were probably close to a dozen carriers who would insure a city government in the state. And we're down to 3 or 4 now. And where self-insurance pools thrive and what their purpose is when it's tough, that's when they do well. And that's frankly their purpose. And KLC will, as long as they do it right, which I believe they will, they'll be here when people leave and when they come back. And their consistency in the marketplace is candidly why I hope they would have been more competitive last year, because it takes the worry of what's happening now somewhat out of play, where a carrier says, hey, it's not you, it's everything. Sorry, we're getting out of this. And it's not just cities we're seeing it in. We're seeing it in all sorts of different lines of insurance. Habitational insurance is an example.
Good enough. Thank you.
Any other questions? You're good.
I'll have an update soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 5B, quarterly fire department report. Call on Chief Futrell.
Good evening, council.
Oh,
So we're going to start with the fire, and then we'll go through all 3 of them. So for the first quarter, we were fairly busy. We ended up with 970 calls for service for our fire department. 11 of those being residential fires. Go to the next page, please. We had 11 homes with fires and 3 non-residential fires. We did have 36 MVAs with injuries and 3 vehicle versus pedestrian. Station 5, Troy talked to me today a little bit about having y'all out to Station 5 to see the update, and some of the council members that have not seen that yet. It is moving along. It is on track for October. They are hanging sheetrock. The new building is going up. They're putting metal on it, so it is definitely on track. We are starting that hiring process now for that facility. That is a 10-week program that they'll start in July. We did have 1 retirement, Captain Burnett, and 3 promotions during the first quarter, and we did complete a fire academy. For EMS, we ended up with 2,676 calls. We were extremely busy. We are on track to break 12,000 calls this year for the first time in EMS, with the great majority of that being 911 calls. We put our peak time up here so that you can see we are extremely busy between that 8 and around 8 o'clock at nighttime. but we are also very busy throughout the night. There's never a time when we don't have an ambulance on the road. Our paramedic program, as y'all know, we have the largest paramedic program in the nation. We have over 100 students. That is going to conclude in November, and we already have other states reaching out to us, asking us to do that again. We've got students right now that are in Alaska using our program. And we will teach an EMT class. We get a lot of requests from the public for EMT. We will be teaching EMT class this fall. Are there any questions on the fire report?
I'm just going to ask you, I know the answer to this, but EMS financially, how are they doing now?
So we have paid back the $500,000 that we borrowed from the city, and we have $1.6 million in the bank.
Okay.
So we are revenue above expenses every month. Absolutely.
And what impact is the EMT and the paramedic program around the state having as far as a financial impact with our fire department, our EMS?
So it's huge for us financially. We'll generate around $500,000 or $600,000 this year just from our paramedic program. We have a city employee that teaches for us, and this pays 100% of his salary plus brings in revenue. We did our TEI several years ago and got accredited because we couldn't find medics. There's a paramedic shortage across the nation. Nobody can find medics. We were shutting down ambulances, couldn't keep them staffed, so we decided we have to make our own. So we started this program, and the people that we have running it, Chief Ferguson and Michael Cordet, our instructor, are second to none. We have the highest pass rate in the state. Every time we put out a class, we fill up immediately, and people are waiting to come to our classes.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm really proud of you guys because I have friends that call me from around the state and said, hey, we're hearing about Hopkinsville with EMS. And it was like, that is it.
We are.
So,
It's going to change the way paramedic is taught across the nation. To be honest, we had people come in to do our audit for our class from California and Texas, and had never heard of this before, never seen it before, and they're auditing it because it's never been done before. But they're excited about this program, and again, it's attributed to the people that are teaching it. They are just unbelievable. They make it work because they're such good instructors.
I'm super good. Really appreciate it.
Questions? All right, we're going to code enforcement next.
So for code enforcement for us, as y'all can see, we start ramping up. We have a slow period through the winter, and as the grass starts growing, we start getting busy. So we ended up with 22 complaints, 14 vehicles, 25 property standards, and 27 property maintenance. As you can see, this time of year, grass is a big thing for us. We have several that we hit. We have over 100. I had that conversation with Troy and Doug this week, trying to figure out what we can do with all of these that we're having to abate every year. It's over hundreds of these vacant lots that we know that we have to hit. We're hitting them multiple times a year. Cannot get a hold of the homeowners. We just keep leaning them. So we are working on things to try to streamline that and make that a better program for us. Going to the next. That's just some of the stuff that we do. So we did have 7 unsafe structures demoed in the first quarter, which is about average for us. We're doing about 7 to 10 every 3 months. Go to the next one, please. This one wasn't done in the first quarter. This one was done this week. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is in the last 5 years, we've responded to this location 611 calls. That is between police, fire, and EMS and code enforcement, right? So recently we had a significant structure fire in this building, which that day, and the way we do things now, as soon as the fire was out, I had code enforcement in there. It was in such a shape that we immediately deemed it unsafe, unhabitable, took it to the code enforcement board. They did a demo on it, and it came down this week.
Questions?
Any questions?
Code enforcement?
I would just like to thank you all. You all are doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
Go into the community risk assessment.
So our community risk assessment, we've had for a little while, and I worked with it with Troy. We're using it basically for a roadmap for our department. So I kind of like to explain to you what it is. We will be sending it out to you soon, but we have new software that's coming in July that will revamp it, kind of update it a little bit for us. But the community risk assessment is what we use to ask for things, basically, or to know where our fire safety stuff needs to be, or where code enforcement needs to do it. But it makes it data driven. It's not just me saying, hey, I think we need to focus on this neighborhood or that neighborhood. I can go to Troy and say, hey, we're doing this, and here's why. So if you go to the next page, so obviously it improves public safety. It supports informed decision-making. It'll help us with our budget when we come to you and say we need this, or we need this station down here at Station 5 because we have these neighborhoods that are unprotected for fire service. That's why it makes us better prepared for emergency preparedness. It promotes equity, so it doesn't allow us to miss neighborhoods. It doesn't matter which neighborhood you live in. It gives us, okay, we've had 15 calls for service for smoke detectors in this area. So we know that we need to be proactive, not just reactive, and hit those neighborhoods. And that's whether it's smoke detectors or fires or kitchen fires. It allows us to do those things. It reduces long-term costs by allowing us to move fire prevention into certain areas that we're missing, that we may not know, that we may not see. And it strengthens community trust. If you go next page, when I say this is a document, it's probably 40 pages long. There's lots of information in here, and you'll see it. A big part of that is weather for us and how that's changed. And we've talked about that a little bit in here. The last 25 years versus the 25 years before that, we have seen a 67% increase in tornado activity in our area. This outlines that specifically, and it shows that, and it shows to where Tornado Alley basically has shifted to this area of the United States. And when I come to you and I say, hey, we are changing the way we do things, I need a little extra chain of money for USAR and BSAR, which is search and rescue and building collapse. This is why. It's data driven. We have responded to this many building collapses. We know that tornadic activity and straight line winds are more severe than they've ever been. So we need to adjust the way we do things. And we're doing that in-house. We've been doing that for a little over a year. I talked to Troy, I asked him for a boat. Why would, and he said, why have you not asked for a boat before? Well, I've been here for 26 years. We've made 0 rescues out of a boat till this year. And this year we had several. If you go to the next page. So in April, with the flooding, we had 217 calls, emergency calls due to that flooding. And so this allows us to be more proactive and anticipate where those areas are going to be, because not only is it numbers, but it's maps and it's hotspots. And I'll be able to show each of you your ward and where we've had flooding where we've never had it before, and where we have houses that are a little bit dilapidated and they're cut up and they've got 7 apartments in it and it's supposed to be 2, right? So we have those issues. So basically, in summary, it's just being proactive instead of reactive, but data driven. And so I will send that out when we redo that in July. You'll have it. It's significant. If you'd like to come in and sit down, we can discuss it and go through it, and it'll help us with our asks.
Questions for Chief?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Would it be fair to say, doing the risk assessment and then investing in those particular areas that are identified? And I know one of them you said lowers insurance, but that lowers insurance for homeowners.
Yes.
That's a fair statement?
Yes, with our ISO rating. When they come in, and ISO is coming this year, one of the first things that they do is they come to the fire department and they spend days with us. And they do, what is your prevention program? What is your community risk assessment? Well, what are you doing? What's your training and why? And so they use that, and we get points and we get scaled off of that, and we get it adjusts our ISO rating, which lowers our insurance premiums.
Is there a way to tell if you invest $1, in the city for fire, police, whatever, is there a way to say, if we invest $1 here, we get 10 cents back here, $1 here, $1.50?
Right.
Is there a way to correlate those two?
In some instances, for example, the burn training,
Right.
the training tower that y'all are building, that you said, we have to have that ISO. To have an ISO rating of 2 requires that. We have no choice for a fire department. We have to have that training facility. Without that, we move to about a 6 because we lose that many points. The difference between a 2 and a 6 on a $300,000 house, I believe, was around $1,200 or $600 a year. I can get that number for you. I got it. We got that number from one of our insurance
You
agents. And I
keep
can get that
watching
number for
both
you.
numbers and keep asking what you need.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And right now it's maintaining because as the city
Right.
grows, we have to grow. You know, it's the first time we've grown the fire department in 26 years, but the city has annexed a lot of areas that were uncovered, and ISO will hit us for that. Absolutely.
Has the old training tower been taken down?
No.
Because I was thinking, as a citizen, I might have to call code enforcement. No, I'm just kidding.
You want to answer that one, Troy?
We discussed that today. He's getting bids today to take it down. We-
Okay.
That is going out for bid.
We need to be in compliance.
I got you.
Any other-
Council members, as we go to become accredited in every department across the city, police is already accredited. We're looking at ECC, fire, codes, public works, all of it. We're moving to a data shifted. We want to bring data to you when we ask for things and they're not just gut reactions, or we went to a conference and saw something shiny and new, that we're coming to you with more standardized best practices in what we ask for.
We'll have operational budget discussion in just a few moments. Is it inappropriate to discuss some of those issues now? Not sure it does. I just happened to notice on the operational budget for fire department that prevention material and smoke detectors was deleted from.
It was shifted to our code enforcement budget.
I got you.
Yep. Just
enough.
to keep it cleaner.
All right.
Yep.
Good enough. Thank you.
Yep. It's in our prevention budget.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
You're good. Thank you. Up next, we'll go to Councilmember Craig. She's going to give a monthly agency board appointee report.
I really don't have much to report. I serve on the Hopkinsville Electric Board, and with the storms, they've been insanely busy. Actually, so if you know anyone involved in HES or at Pennyroyal for that matter, I mean, they've just done a phenomenal job restoring our power, and I'm sure you saw some of the power lines that were literally snapped in half. It was terrible, but they've done a great job. But on another note, I wanted to mention with HES that they're working on a long-term plan right now that will provide fiber internet to everybody who lives in Hopkinsville. So people who right now are not able to get fiber internet, hold tight. I think that good news is coming. So that's my report.
All right. Thank you. We'll go into item 6, unfinished business, the fiscal year 25-26 operational budget discussion. We'll call on Melissa Clayton. We asked her to go into a little more detail, so she has obliged.
Melissa graduated yesterday.
You graduated yesterday.
I did.
Congrats.
Thanks. Good evening. I've been asked to go through the budget tab by tab, so that's what I'm going to do. And if you guys have questions along the way about any department or anything I talk about, please feel free to get the chair's attention and let him stop me as we go. I want to start off with our department-wide changes. So department-wide, that means it happened in every single department. We had a COLA increase in every single department of 3%, and then we had a pension decrease in every single department, and that decrease is dependent upon whether they're hazardous or non-hazardous. So those are the total dollar figures that I have on the screen right now of what those two effects had overall in the budget. We also increased our health trust funding across all departments by a total of $62,000. We do that by adding a little bit to each employee's amount that we budget for, and that total was $62,000. So that also happened in every department. I won't talk about those as we go into each department, but just know that those are in there. Next, we'll talk about administration. I want to start with the payroll changes in the administration department. Gary kind of had this slide last time, but I didn't see any updates that I needed to make to it because it's pretty accurate on what's in there. We added some money to the payroll position to move a person from payroll specialist 2 to payroll coordinator. And that cost is $3,861. Accounting 2 to accounting coordinator is $3,549. We have a grade change in a job description of administrative coordinator. That job is going from a 14 to a 17, and that amount increased the budget by $11,251. We have a grade change of the revenue enhancement officer position from a 16 to a 14, and that increased $10,387. We have a secretary 2 position to an administrative assistant position, and that's in HR, and that increased the budget $14,495. Then we have a PIO position to a technology and public information director. That increased the budget $11,364. And the last thing was we removed 2 receptionist 2 positions and created 1 administrative assistant position. And that went from 2 part-time positions to a full-time position. So it added about $47,000 to the admin budget. Are there questions on the payroll changes in the administrative department?
Yeah, I do. I'll go back to last week's meeting when I made a motion about the PIO position, removing it. I did that, and I think Councilmember Marsh made a couple of points that I thought were good points that I wasn't really thinking about at the time. In doing that, I went back and I pulled all the job descriptions of current IT positions, the proposed, the PIO position, the former director position and all. And in short, although I thought you had some good points that made me rethink, I just still don't think that it's a good move. I'll just leave it at that, and I would be making a motion to have it removed.
Motion on the floor. Second? Second. All right, any more discussion on that? Call. Call on the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Craig, Councilmember Martin.
Can we clear it? Yes to remove it, no to
Right.
leave it in. Okay. Yes.
Councilmember Sumner. Yes. Councilmember Meek. Yes. Councilmember Bogard.
Yes.
Councilmember Velez.
No.
Councilmember Drought.
No.
Councilmember Smith. No. Councilmember Stallings.
Yes.
Councilmember Marsh.
No.
Councilmember Crabtree.
No.
So 6 were no and 5 were yes. So we are removing it, right?
That means leave it. It remains.
Okay.
That's in. Yeah.
Right, the
Now I've got
motion
myself-
fails, so the
Motion
position
fails.
remains.
Right, yep. All right, Melissa, you're back up.
All right. As far as operational changes in the administrative department, we have added some money to our advertising and marketing line. Part of that includes a website redesign. We also added some money to our contract labor line for mass foreclosure attorney fees. And then we added some more money to our equipment and furniture for some new chairs. So any questions on our operational changes in admin? Sorry. Tax department, there were no payroll or operational changes. That budget actually went down by a little bit. In the information technology department, we have removed the position out of payroll of the chief technology officer, and we have added in the operational lines, co-managed IT services, an increase in hardware and media, and an increase in software upgrades. Any questions in IT?
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So the increase that we see is basically this phone system, data storage. That's the increase. I see that the position's been removed, but we have an increase of 26.49%. That would be chalked up to phone system upgrades.
Software upgrades, every year, like different departments buy different software and things, and then it ends up in the IT department year over year to be paid for. So when the software renews, a lot of times the IT department has to absorb those costs. So every year it seems like their software costs are going up. That's part of the reason IT has been very close to budget or over budget all year, is we pay a lot of those software out of the software lines from the IT budget. So this is going to get our software up to where we need it to be to hopefully not have them so far behind budget next year.
I mean, all of us that have been held hostage by software upgrade companies feel for this, but the bottom line is for the phone system at $223,000, about how long would we expect?
Are you in capital? Are you on the capital budget?
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
So that 223,000 was budgeted in this year's budget, 24-25. And we can have IT bring you a status update on where they are on installing all the phones. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but I basically was just wondering about how long should that phone system service the city?
That's up, quite frankly, to this council.
Thomas is giving me
We could have
10.
kept those old phones, but they were becoming a problem, and you were gracious enough to let us upgrade. So it's really up to you guys how long we can go with them. These are new. We'll take them as far as we can take them. In terms of us bringing them to you and you letting us buy new ones. As far as the software, it's important to note everything you give us is now attached. So when you approve us to buy some more cameras to stick up, it's not done once we buy the cameras. There's software attached, or this code enforcement, or the MDTs in an ambulance, or everything. Everything we do is a software. And like Melissa said, when you're doing those monthlies, when you see IT that looks over budget, in the beginning, we pay those software subscriptions right out the gate, and we spend a lot of money, and they just keep going up.
Well, I mean, I'm going to quit this, but I was just going to say, we realize you're not clairvoyant, but how long did the old phone system basically last?
Thomas is saying 10 years.
10 years.
It's supposed to
Okay.
be 10 years.
That's a good number. Thank you.
And I can't tell you what phone systems will be like 10 years.
Yeah, it's outdated.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, good enough. Thanks. I'm sorry, Chuck.
No, you've answered my question.
I have a question. The contract labor co-managed IT services, that the lowest bid that we got from the bids that were submitted?
We are still evaluating those bids right now. I think the lowest bid for all three, I think it was 100 and including EMS, which is going to be paid by the ambulance board. I think it was like 140,000 for all three, but don't quote me on that. I mean, we're still evaluating those, so a decision hasn't been made on them yet.
All right, thank you.
But EMS will be paying their share since they're doing so well with that stellar board.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else on IT? Okay, great. Legislative, we added some more to the legal consultant line. In the police department, we had one police officer at a grade 14 to a police captain position. That's one promotion. And then we added another crime scene technician. We had one in the budget last year as part-time, and they have moved that. They want to move that position to full-time. And then we are subtracting out 4 school resource officers that are now going to be going to the school system. So that was a decrease of $394,000 to the police budget. They did not have any operational changes in the police budget. They kept everything the same. Any questions on police? ECC was just the regular, it was all just, the only thing we budget for is the payroll side because they do all their operational side at the ECC board. So no changes there. Fire department. Fire department has a lot of changes this year due to the fact of adding Fire Station 5. We have added 9 new firefighter EMT positions. We've added 3 new firefighter lieutenant positions and 1 fire training officer position. Of the 1.1 million or 1.3 million of payroll changes in the front, 1.1 million of that went to fire. We've also increased their professional fees, their vehicle maintenance and repair, their building maintenance and repair, and their turnout gear to account for those new people, because all the new people have to have firefighting equipment. The new building, we need more building maintenance because it's a big building. But there were a lot of changes in fire. So do you guys have questions about the fire department?
We'd like to be able to show you some of those things when you do your tour.
Yes.
All right, the EMS budget, the big change I made to the EMS budget, if you guys will, every month when I give the monthly financial, I say EMS is over budget because we don't budget for overtime. I have put the overtime in the budget for next year. So that is an increase in the EMS budget by about $540,000. Hopefully that'll be enough to cover it. That's the change in the EMS. That's one of the reasons. It also increases the revenue because we get reimbursed from the ambulance board for this amount. So this is really a wash for the city. We increase the expense. We also increase the revenue. So fire prevention, the only really big change there, we increased demolitions by $150,000. Last year, part of this, or maybe the year before, last year when we redid part of the inner city res budget, we put more towards demolition and inner city res. Since we didn't put any money in inner city res, we used that money to go into the fire prevention department in the demolition line. Any questions about that? All right, Public Works Admin, there were no major changes. City maintenance, they did a small increase in contract labor and in their city maintenance line, which is the cost of everything going up. It's what is used to help. I don't know, Mike can probably explain that better. But that was the increase in Public Works Admin, if you guys have questions. City maintenance, sorry. Fort Campbell contract, I think we're in year 5, and these decreases are related to what we're supposed to do in year 5 of the contract we have with them. So this is also kind of a wash for us. As the expenses decrease, the revenues also decrease with the Fort Campbell contract. So they have a decrease of about 19.3% in Fort Campbell contracts this year. For next year. Service Center, there were no major changes in payroll or operations. Parks and Rec, there were no major changes. Sportsplex, there were no major changes. We did add some money to the contract labor line because we didn't quite have enough budgeted last year to cover all. We contract out with a company. We have a 5-year contract that comes in and runs the water park for us, and they bill us for the labor. So we needed to add some more in the contract labor line. So we added some, but it wasn't a huge amount. So it wasn't really a major change, but we did add a little bit there. Oh, sorry, that's the water park. I did add it here. It's $25,000. We increased it by $25,000. Sportsplex didn't have any major changes. Y'all keep me on task. All right, agencies. The biggest change to our agencies is the addition of the Hoptown Helps program. And so we added $63,400 to the funding versus what we budgeted in our non-mandated agencies last year. We budgeted 186, I think, and we added 63,000, so it's up to 250,000 to kind of make room for the new nonprofits we think are going to apply. And then we moved the building permits, got moved. Normally they're in a pass-through, and we moved those to the revenue section. We added $125,000 to CDS's allocation by taking the revenue. We took it out of the pass-through and moved it to a revenue, and then we added some expense to CDS. So the expense was subtracted from the pass-through and put on CDS's line. Questions?
I'll go here. So kind of like what Clayton did, I made the motion last time to fund the Arts Council, so I'm gonna do that again. Motion to fund the Arts Council, $44,000, which was their amount from last year, and those funds to be pulled from Hoptown Helps.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion there?
I would like to make a motion. The last time we was here, and we talked about that, and giving that pass for the Art Council, and I voted on that. But I also left her feeling kind of bad about the other non-mandated agencies. And so I'm making a motion that we pass those agencies in, just like we did the Art Council. And then anybody new that's coming, they go through the Hoptown Helps. But they was here last year and was granted. And I just want to make that motion on that.
Point of order.
Is that a motion to amend?
Yes, sir.
Have that motion, Brittany.
Can we clarify that?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. Can you clear that? Can you just clarify? You're wanting to fund everyone at their same level as last year,
Correct.
and whatever money's left over, that goes to Hoptown Helps.
Correct.
Were you also wanting to have them added on as a required going forward?
No, we can't
We
do
found
that.
out we can't do it.
Yeah, I tried to do that.
Can't make it a line.
Okay, just asking.
Let me clarify, because you asked last time if we could designate these entities as a mandated entity. And I've discussed with Melissa, we cannot, because it needs to be a city established entity that is formed by the city, controlled by the city. These entities are not. So you have passed Municipal Order 12/2025 in March, which set up Hoptown Helps. And that municipal order requires all of these nonprofits to go through Hoptown Helps. So if we go down this path and this amendment is made, then it's my opinion you're going to have to amend that municipal order for this fiscal year. Because otherwise you're violating your own municipal order that you've established the procedure. So you could do it at the second reading of the budget, pass a municipal order at that time, which will make an exception for this year based on the amendment that has been presented. So you can deal with these entities for this fiscal year, and for the next fiscal year, then everything would go through Hoptown Helps, if that's what I'm hearing would be the consensus.
Can I make a comment before we move on?
Yes.
I think that's a terrible idea. I love you, but I think it's a terrible idea. I'll tell you why. This idea of Hoptown Helps has been in the works for years. And I mean, just to basically say we passed it, but we're going to just throw it aside and not do it. I think it's a terrible idea. We've got to give this a shot and do it. The only reason the Arts Council even came up is because of summer programming. And if they don't get their money now, summer program will be eliminated. So that's kind of where some of that thought came from with the Arts Council. But the rest of the agencies, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I think we need to give this a try, since we've already passed the municipal order to do it. To not do it at this point, I think would be detrimental to what Melissa especially has been, and me too, for that matter, have been trying to do for several years, to put something like this in place. So I think we've got to roll with this and try it. And if it doesn't work, we could reevaluate next year. But I think this year we really need to try to do Hoptown Helps with all these other agencies and give it a try.
I concur with Ms. Gregg.
I just think, I mean, we let one pass. Why we can't let the others pass through?
I think the summer programs is what the issue was, is that if they didn't have the money right now, that they couldn't move forward. But the rest of these programs were able to do that.
The Alhambra is an income producer for the city. If we don't fund them, she's talking about having to cancel services.
She'll have to close down
Immediately.
until September.
Nah, I definitely don't want to close her down.
Right.
Or none of that. I just want to make sure everybody else go through, because everybody else serve this community in some shape, form, or fashion where it helps one another and everything. So I just want to make sure that they go through also, and then we revamp this thing the next following year.
One more comment. But they will go through. We're just literally waiting like 2 months. I mean, this is not going to be like a long thing for these other agencies. They're still, in fact, they have the potential to get more money. And I even explained this to Margaret over at the Arts Council. there's more money in Hoptown Helps than we've had in the past for these agencies. So they have the potential to get more money, but now they're really just having to wait realistically until about August. So it's
them.
not a long wait. It's gonna be worth it
September.
for these agencies. They just need to hold tight, go through the process, apply, and then ultimately, I think they'll end up getting more money potentially.
And that includes the Pinnacle Arts.
No, if we pass Pinnacle Arts, we're basically saying we're going to fund them at what they asked for last year. So they would not get any additional funding. Originally, when I talked to her about let's go through this process, I didn't realize that programming would have to be canceled. So that was kind of where my idea shifted on that, because I had explained to her that, Arts Council could ultimately get more funding, but if we pass it to where they're going to go with what they got last year, they won't. This will be the amount they get and that's it. But those who go through Hoptown Helps, that amount will vary based off the needs and basically what's available.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, yes, sir.
It's just,
If we do this, let's just back up a second. We just helped the fire department out with $500,000 out of the line item. When we wrote them that $500,000, loaned them that $500,000.
A UDAG loan.
To the EMS. All right, let's just back up. And let's loan them $44,000 to the Hoptown Helps goes through. Can we do that, Doug? And that way y'all can make it all go through the Hoptown Helps and you get paid back when you get that money.
I don't know.
Messy.
That seems complicated.
Out of the UDAG money.
I don't think it's messy.
Not the UDAG, but can we do that as a? we know we can get it out of the
Is that a
UDAG.
Doug question?
Oh, I would defer to Melissa to
I'm
make
going to
sure
have
it's
to
not-
look and see. I would have to go back and read the agreement on the UDAG
Well,
money.
if we don't even take it out of the UDAG money, do we have another fund we can take it out of right now to give her $44,000? And then we take that money back in August
Yeah,
or
Hoptown
September
Helps.
when we give this money to her. Just to get it through, to make it go through Hoptown Helps like it's supposed to. Just to get her by till, that way the summer funds, the summer programs go, and then we go from there. I'm with Banks. I think everybody ought to have to go through Hoptown Hills. But if we have to make an exception this year to keep the Alhambra afloat, so this youth in Hopkinsville can go to the Alhambra to do their programs, I think that's what we ought to try to do.
Doug, is there no concern, we get into the loan business.
Well,
We
one
can't.
thing that you could do, you could advance the money out of Hoptown Helps at the current level and then still allow that entity to go through Hoptown Helps through the process to see if there's anything in addition to what's already been appropriated.
I mean,
Okay.
can I make a comment?
That's a great
I
idea,
think,
Doug.
all of us around this table appreciate, the Pennyroyal Arts Council. We love what they do. We love the Alhambra. We patronize them. We don't want to see them go without. If it's summer fund, if there's a way to do this so that they do not have to bypass the program every other agency has to go through, that we might open ourselves up to an inequity in the funding of that program. And then also, bridging them the money they need for the summer program. Their entire ask for the year was $44,000. Certainly, they probably don't need that just for the summer programs.
Can I just say that when you guys pass the budget, we pay the non-mandated agencies, if they're less than 100,000, we pay them quarterly. So she wouldn't even get her first payment until September.
Okay.
So she'd be paid September, March, and June, and she's paid 1/4 of it each quarter. So she would get an $11,000 payment in September. So she doesn't get, when you guys pass the budget, we can't pay everybody out all at the beginning of the year, because that would make us, it just makes us over budget. So if you guys, when we budget an agency that has over $100,000, we pay them monthly. They get 12 payments of whatever it is. So it's spread out throughout the year, and we're not bankrupting ourselves in the beginning and then not leaving ourselves any money. So it's spread out evenly throughout the year when it's passed in the budget. So she will not get that money up front anyway. It's just, I think, a matter for her planning of how much money she's going to receive. She needs to know. That's my understanding. Is that right?
I feel a little like Councilman Smith. I was just caught a little off guard at the last meeting, and I think I maybe snoozed through the vote. So bottom line is, I was just contemplating all of that, that all the other agencies are going through the financials, the application process, and they did none of that, so.
And can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry. The overwhelming response from the nonprofit community has been positive. These agencies are so excited. I would say 99% of the feedback we've received is positive. We had an informational Q&A, and those people are so excited just to have an opportunity to apply for a grant and for help. And it's a great program, y'all. And it's a good thing for the city. So.
And I'm hoping the Penny Royal Arts Council gets what they actually need to develop their programs. So that's all I'm going to say.
All right.
Thank you.
We have two motions on the floor. We need to vote on Vance's
We need to explain it.
motion to amend the first one. So we need,
Okay, there are two motions on the floor. The first motion is to fund the Arts Council, the amount that it was appropriated last year. Your motion, I don't think it was clarified as to whether or not they would still be allowed to go through Hoptown Helps, but the motion to amend that motion was to fund all entities that were funded, all non-mandated entities that were funded last year at the same level as they were last year. So you would need to take the motion to amend first, and then we'll deal with the motion either as amended or the original motion.
So explain what it means if you vote yes and no.
Right.
Everybody's clear, I'm just saying.
Yes. On the motion to amend, if you vote yes, then it would be to fund all of the non-mandated entities at the same level as they were last fiscal year.
But then that also means we have to go back and change that ordinance that's already in place.
The municipal order,
Municipal order.
absolutely, yes.
So I know you're ready to vote, but I am just going to discuss if there is time to do that, speak against the amendment, even though I seconded it. I'm going to withdraw my second.
now we just have a
Need
motion.
another second.
We need another second, if anybody's willing. Anyone? That is dead due to
So there is now
non-second.
there's now no motion to amend on the floor. It's just the original motion.
Mr. Meeks has something to say.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. Do we have to change, if we do vote on the amendment, do we have to go back and now change the municipal order because we're doing one entity?
No, I think that can be done as the budget it still goes to council, because you're just sending this to council now. And when it's presented at council, we'll need to present that municipal order at that time to clear that up, so that you're authorizing yourself to have the discretion to pull an entity out and put a line item for that entity.
We'll still have to change the municipal order.
Yes.
So now we'll go back to the original motion, which was to fund the Arts Council $44,000 and those funds to be pulled from Hoptown Helps, which we have a motion and a second. We did. We do. No. Just call on the clerk to call the roll.
Well, is there room for discussion
Sure,
still?
sure.
So this vote that we're taking now, a yes is to send it on to council really only. We're not actually approving the funding tonight.
Correct. You're making an amendment to the budget, and then the budget as a whole will be forwarded to council. You can have this discussion at council, and it can be something totally different.
That's it. Gotcha. Thank you.
Clear as
You need to get it
mud.
to council to have that discussion.
Okay, I just want everybody to understand we're not actually approving those funds tonight.
So
It's
yes
sending
is
it to
to
the
fund,
council.
no is to not. Correct. Okay. You're up.
Councilmember Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sumner,
Yes.
Councilmember Meek, Councilmember Bogard,
Yes.
Councilmember Les.
No.
Councilmember Drought,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Stallings,
Yes.
Councilmember Marsh,
No.
Councilmember Crabtree.
No,
So the motion does pass.
Right. Back to you, Melissa.
All right. Yay, we're almost done. In our miscellaneous items, that's 550. There were no operational changes in those items. In our insurance department, we budgeted for a 30% increase, and we hope that's enough. any question, we increased all of them. That's our liability, our auto fleet, our property insurance. We increased them all. Any questions? Insurance is going up everywhere. Everywhere. We didn't make any changes to our building and property accounts.
Please.
In our debt service, we have a few changes for this year. As the mayor's pointed out in his budget address, we have the final payment to the water park. It is $153,000 less than what we budgeted last year. But the counterpart to that was the other 2021, the municipal building bond payment went up by 155. And that bond payment was designed that way. It was designed that way originally when they borrowed the money for when the water park was paid off for the building amount of principal we paid to go up. And then we added a new bond series 2024, and that added $417,925 to the budget. So that is an increase of 16.6%. And anytime we bond money, the next year our bond payments are going to go up. Any questions about our debt service?
I do. On WINS, on the two WINS bonds, how much is actually left on them and how long is that term of service for?
I would have to look at the principal amounts. I didn't bring that information with me, but I'm happy to get that to you. They were borrowed in 2015 and 2016, that they were both 25-year bonds. So the ones that were borrowed in 2015 will be paid off in 2040, and the one that was borrowed in 2016 will be paid off in 2041.
Wow. Okay.
Yep, they're with us for a while. Hopefully I'll be retired by then. The pension debt, that's the place where we budget the police and fireman pension fund. We budgeted another $200,000 to go from the city fund over to the police and fireman pension fund. So no. And then we budgeted $36,700 more in our incentives and rebates. And also every time council passes an incentive or rebate, line items go up in our budget. So interfund transfers remain the same at $100,000 for next year. And then our grant matching fund, we're decreasing the amount of funding needed by $87,500, mostly because we haven't spent all of our grant matching fund this year. We don't need as much money next year in our grant matching account. And then the transfer lines increased. A lot of that I'm trying to plan for the fact that our business licenses have not all come in this year, and they're going to come in next year. So I'm trying to plan those transfers to the Economic Development Fund and the Future Fire Station Fund that's required by municipal order. So I increased those transfer amounts, that I increased the revenue amounts to go with them. So that's the increase in the transfers mostly. We're also increasing the amount we're transferring to capital because that's directly related to the insurance premium tax. And when insurance goes up, our insurance premium tax increases as well. And then the last thing on the municipal road aid fund, which you pass as part of the operational budget, it has an increase of $475,000 over last year, and all of that is in for road construction. Most of that is a transfer from capital into the MRA fund, which you guys already passed the capital budget. But road construction has a pretty hefty increase in it this year. And that concludes my tab by tab report. I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys might have about the operational budget.
Any questions? Chuck?
Can you talk a little bit about the available cash? Because it looks like it's 44.2%. What is the goal amount we want to have and what we have?
The goal at the end of the year is to have, we have a municipal order. I think it's a municipal order that says we have to have 20% in our unassigned cash. So we can't get below 20. It's always recommend. It also, I think in that same municipal order, it says recommended 25%. Do I think we're going to end at 44% at the end of the year? No, I don't.
Where do you think we're going to end at the end of the year?
Oh my goodness.
I guess what I'm getting at, that number has seemed to grown significantly during the time I've been on council. And although it's good to have cash on hand, once it gets to a certain level, I would think that we would want to utilize that money in a different way. And maybe that's an after budget discussion. But, you know, maybe we could start looking at some of our bonds, and if some of them are significantly higher, maybe that would be a place that we would want to look at. And if we're lacking something in the budget for fire, police, public works, maybe there's an opportunity to fund something one time. I'm never against overfunding pensions and insurance, because it sounds like we're going to get hit with that even more and more, you know, like Lee talked about. And, you know, the other thing, we could always look at maybe a longer term investment for a portion of that money. And maybe, you know, Mayor, you and your staff, if you could look at that and maybe come back after the budget, and let's do some serious consideration on what we might want to do with that. I don't want to leave us short, but at the same time, I mean, there may be some things we need to do, some adjustments. Sense?
That's a good point. Melissa, weren't we, I feel like a few years ago, we were higher than this, actually. Did we not get up around 28% in this, the cash available? So I think.
It was, I think we've been higher before.
Yeah, we've been quite a bit. It's actually come back down,
Yeah.
which is good. It means we're using it to get things accomplished.
Generally, our lowest month of the year is July, because we start over fresh.
Right.
And so our lowest percentage month is always July. And I always worry about, are we going to hit the 20%, or am I going to be in violation of the municipal order by not having enough in the unassigned cash fund balance? I think last year in July, we were at 25, but it does tend to go up throughout the year. And then we, in the months of May and June is when we do a lot of the transfers, and we move everything that's been budgeted throughout the year. So that when we end, June also will have a lower percentage than what we have right now and what we're showing. If I did those transfers this month, then that percentage would go down.
Okay.
So we do them quarterly. March, we did some and it went down a little bit. And then we do a lot of we do the capital transfer quarterly. And so when you move that money, when you move like $1 million out from the general fund to the capital fund, that lowers the percentage of what the unassigned cash is available, because now it's been obligated to capital.
And Councilmember, to be honest, that's y'all's call, and we gladly implement it. But I would tell you, with the frequency and intensity of these storms,
Yeah.
and I cannot tell you the certainty of FEMA anymore.
Scary.
No one will come and save this city but ourselves. And to have some cushion that we can rebuild ourselves and not be dependent upon the state or the feds, it's a reliableness.
Yeah, scary.
And I'm happy to tell you, we only really have one debt we could pay off right now. That's the 2024 series. I mean, the 2014 series, because you're not allowed to pay them off within the first 10 years. And so the 2021 debt that we had, we refinanced in 2021. So now we can't pay it off until 2031. So the only debt that we have not refinanced right now is the bonds we borrowed in 2014. And I can get you what the payoff of that is and how much it would be if we paid that off early. That bond was combined with some money that went to HWEA and also went to Surface and Stormwater Utility. So that bond was split in three.
I think as a council, once the budget's cleared up and you've done, see where we are then, and then maybe come back. I mean, I agree with what Troy is saying. I mean, it never hurts to have money on hand. But at the same time, maybe we invest that in some semi-short term versus a savings account, for example. So make a little more money on it.
And I think I've kind of been waiting to see what happens with the KLC bond, because it's been up and down, that money we took and we invested. And so the market value's been up and down. So I think I'm kind of waiting to see if we really are going to make any money off of our
Yeah.
other money we put over there versus what we make in our checking account on our interest bearing that we draw each month. So I've been watching it and I've been tracking it, so.
Any further questions? It's Craig, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we forward the operational budget as amended to council.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, probably need to do a roll call on this.
Councilmember Craig,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sumner,
Yes.
Councilmember Meek, Councilmember Bogard,
Yes.
Councilmember Velez.
Yes.
Councilmember Drought,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Stallings,
Yes.
Councilmember Marsh,
Yes.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Yes.
Okay, so we didn't have to do a roll call. Sorry. All right, we're going into, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Number 7, new business, West 7th Street redevelopment proposal, and we'll call on Ms. Holly Bogus.
So, Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you all for your time this evening. You have included in your packet a memorandum from Mr. Britton, along with an attachment from Bell Engineering. This is for the West 7th Street Gateway redevelopment project. Most of you are probably aware that the state has been in the process of planning improvements along West 7th Street from the intersection of Kentucky 91 up to North Drive. That will include widening that lane, including sidewalks. I believe there'll be a middle lane for turning, so it'll be a lot safer for pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So in speaking with Mayor Knight, he's been very interested as part of his Growing Home initiative to enhance the entryways that are coming into our downtown area, just so that the community becomes more beautified. So the first logical entrance would be the West 7th Street Gateway, because the state is already investing substantial money in making those improvements. So this proposal would be to extend improvements or create a plan for extending improvements starting at North Drive and then coming into where 7th and 9th Street intersect. That's right in front of the Christian County Justice Center. This would allow the city to be able to apply for grant funding through state and federal sources if they had a plan that actually shows what could be done. So what we're looking at is a $50,000 proposal from Bell Engineering, and that would to be utilized again as a basis for getting grant fundings or for applying for grant funding. They'll be looking at pedestrian safety and experience. There are several items that this is broken into. I think the most important to bring your attention to is the preliminary design and planning that involves development of roadway and walkway alignment recommendations, and then the final design and planning that provides a 3D corridor model with plan and perspective illustrative graphics. And then costs will be outlined so that could be utilized as part of a grant submission should the city decide they do want to move forward with seeking funding. In 2024, funding was reallocated out of the legacy Hopkinsville budget to account for paying the West 7th Street redevelopment plan. We went out for requests for qualifications. We received 4 submissions. The 2 that were ranked the highest by the committee that consisted of Public Works individuals and Community and Development Services, along with Mr. Body. We interviewed the top 2, and then we negotiated with Bell Engineering. Their original cost submission was $67,500, and we were able to get them down within the budgeted amount of $50,000. So we are making a recommendation to you that you authorize a contract in the amount of $50,000 with Bell Engineering based on the proposal that was submitted and what was included in your packet. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding that project.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Holly, what would be the timeline? When would you start and when would they be done?
It'd probably be about a 6 to 8 month timeline. And they could start as soon as council authorized a contract. I mean, it would take us maybe just a couple of weeks to get that lined out. And then they would start by doing some aerial views, just doing an assessment of the area. They've done a little bit of that preliminary work, but they would have to dig a little bit deeper into property owners and alignment and look at, coordination with the Kentucky Transportation.
So the other question, and I know we're looking at housing and other types of developments in the city. What's the possibility of you all bringing this body of work in-house in CDS and letting people build capability instead of outsourcing it? Is that an option?
We don't have any engineers on staff. who
No, the
can-
engineer is the rationale that you can't do it.
Yes, sir. We could assist in coming up with additional neighborhood planning,
Right?
but we do not have an engineer on staff who could.
Oh, that's the
provide.
limiting factor, is not
Yes, sir.
having an engineer.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Well,
just,
I'm
excuse me,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
I'm just curious, is the vision of this being like Campbell Street coming in? That kind of?
Similar with
I'm
roadway
assuming we would keep it
improvements,
something if we're trying to
Yes.
come into downtown. Okay, so
Correct.
that's kind of what we're,
decorative lighting,
can see happening.
correct, very similar.
More inviting people coming
Mhm.
No, that's a good idea. That's why I wondered, because that was the plan supposedly with Campbell Street. And I just wondered if we're going to keep it looking like the same kind of
Yes, sir.
flow.
Uniform.
Really good. I'm going to leverage off what Chuck said on the last page of the proposal from Bell. The fee says that the lump sum fee of 50,000 will be invoiced on a monthly basis as milestones they're outlined in here as they're met. So this is kind of like a schedule of values. As they finish that work, they will be done. Do we have anything in here that actually says they'll finish this in 6 months or 8 months or?
We typically include that in the contract. And
Okay.
we can put a timeline in there that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with a 9-month time frame, we can
Well, I mean,
do that.
it's not our job to get into your business and do the operations. The bottom line is, we see some of these contracts sometimes and they just never get done.
We typically have that conversation with the company that we're contracting with and just make sure that they're comfortable and that they see the same timeline that we see so that we don't get way off track.
Yeah.
But we can have that conversation, and Councilmember Crabtree, if you're good with 9 months and the rest of council is good, I think that's a reasonable expectation.
I think so.
Motion to move it to council.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, a second. Sure.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
New business item B, City of Ethics. I'll turn it over to Mr. Willen.
On page 8, 9, and 10 is the resolution and then some information from KLC. We currently have a code of ethics that has been amended from time to time. We have previously been a certified city of ethics. We have to recertify. In the process of doing that, this is the first step to pass a resolution authorizing to contract with KLC for $750, compare our existing ordinance with their model ordinances. If there's any recommendations that they have for us to become a certified city of ethics, that will be brought back to council. And then if you agree, we can make those amendments, and then we submit that back to KLC. Then you have to have training. They will come down and train, and then you would be a certified city of ethics. So we would need a motion to forward that resolution to council if you desire to start that process.
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion there?
So this would, Mr. Chairman, would
Yes,
this basically would affect, and maybe Mr. Willen as well, this would help or affect or enhance our Hopkinsville Board of Ethics or?
Yeah, we already have a comprehensive, we have an ethics board that enforces our code of ethics. And what I would anticipate is they've probably made additions to their model ordinances, something that may have come up over the past 10 years that needs to be inserted. So we would consider that. If you agree that that's good to put in the ordinance, then we would make that change.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Councilmember, we were a city of ethics. It's just expired.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. New business item C, Emergency Communications Center Interlocal Agreement. Again, Mr. Willen.
It's on page 11 of your packet. Our existing interlocal agreement on ECC has been expired for a number of years. City and county officials have met along with others with HPD and Sheriff's Department. There needs to be some tweaking to it. What you have in front of you is the amended version, what we would recommend that you consider adopting. The county has already approved this. So the step now would be for the city to forward this to council for an approval, and then we would file this in Frankfurt. Now, the main changes, just to point out, there are a couple of substantial changes, but those are in the city's best interest, in my opinion. The makeup of the board has been amended. We've got 2 non-voting entities now. Pembroke and Christian County Emergency Management Director are serving as non-voting members, but the city still has control at 5 board spots. The county has 4. Crofton has been removed from the interlocal agreement. The main change is in paragraph number 7. This has been a point of contention over the years. The CMRS funds that historically would go to the county and then would be a percentage would then come to the ECC. Now, 100% of those funds now by agreement are going to the center, and that's what we've requested. On number 9, the expenses that are not covered by the CMRS funds and other funding, city would pay 60% and the county would pay 40%. Previously, that was based on call volume. And at some point, I think even before Melissa's time, it had been around 60-40 for so many years that I think Robert just adopted the 60-40. Historically, that's what it's been. So the agreement was just we'll proceed on the 60-40 based on prior history. And other than that, this is just something that we need to get this done so that we can have an agreement to go by. We've been operating month to month off of an expired agreement for several years.
Right. Any other questions?
Got a question.
Yes, sir.
So the way the 60-40 was established was at some point in time, call volume was 60-40. And that was just used as a rule of thumb moving forward. What's the call volume today?
It's
My
there.
understanding, I will defer that to the ones that know more than me. It's my understanding that it's still accurate.
Yeah, so every year, Robert would spend a lot of time calculating the call volume in the city versus the county. And generally, it would come out like 38.27 to 62 point whatever, So it was just a lot of calculating to come to around about the same number every year. So it's around 60-40. I mean, sometimes it would be more and sometimes it would be less based on the number of calls. But that meant ECC had to track all of that. Then they would send Robert a big spreadsheet of the call volume, and then he would have to take time to calculate all of that during the budget season and, trying to figure out the exact percentage so that we split the costs that way. So just having a regular number is much easier. We don't have to wait for the call log and all of that.
So that number is
Still accurate.
It's around there.
Councilman 50-50 would look much better, but if you're going by call volume and you're good with that.
Yeah.
Further questions?
I only sat on this board for a couple of years. Mr. Sumner's on it now. But I will tell you that for the county to make that concession, that's a pretty big thing. So I just think it's a great thing. Thank you.
Does this need to be forwarded?
Absolutely.
I'll make
Yes,
a
ma'am.
motion, we forward this to council.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Unfinished business, item D, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, Melissa and Doug. It's got your name next to it.
I'll be glad if you want to stay.
Whoever.
Already up.
Rock, paper, scissors.
We became aware at the end of 2024 that the county had not been applying for, they traditionally have applied for this grant. We're in a disparate relationship with them in competition for this grant. So if they apply for it and get it, then we can't because there's only a certain amount of money allocated. So the last time they applied for it was when Walter Cummings was still treasurer, and I think they have plans to apply in 25. Anyway, we found out they didn't apply in 23, and when Belinda came on as grant writer at the end of 24, we also learned that they had not applied. So we went ahead and applied. We received the grant, but there were a lot of steps that we have to do in order to actually get the money, and part of it is that we need an MOU with the county. The county has to pass this as well. This is a memorandum of understanding between the city and the county of what the money's going to be spent on. When we applied for this grant, it was for MDTs for the police department. So those are go in the cars and stuff. I don't know all the technical stuff, but that's what we applied for. So we need this MOU so we can get the grant money.
And the county has agreed to present this to fiscal court.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes as well. On to item number 8, other. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Any questions?
Mr. Chair, you've had 2 successive storms with no leaks in this chamber.
That's great.
So we are going to continue with the ripping of wallpaper, and in the coming weeks, you'll see this chamber refreshed from paintings to carpets to everything. And the public deserves something better than this, but we wouldn't touch it until the roofs were fixed. Mike and his team have done a great job in isolating that, so you're going to see some remodeling coming down here. In addition to that, what used to be the public safety office, what's a great office and a great idea, has now been turned into a small little additional conference room, and it'd be great for council members in particular if you need to meet your constituents somewhere. There's table and couches and things right next door that they could meet you there. No scheduling necessary.
All right. And I've got a question. A while back, we created a committee to look at the business tax licenses in the city. And my question is for that committee, when will we hear a report and or recommendations coming from that committee?
You'll be hearing some comments from that here before, not too far off. We met, what was it, first of the month? We're going to meet again on the 29th.
Okay.
And hopefully have some numbers put together with this committee, and then we can bring it back to you after that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Anything else under other? Item 9. Motion
Make
to
a
adjourn.
motion.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.